Hi there, I am Adam Kivas, and this is another episode of my podcast. I am here in Ordu in Turkey, which is supposed to be a sunny morning, and on this December date, we are still in the pandemic. I hope that you all are doing fine. We will continue our inquiry into rationality. We came so far as to analyze the structure and the main theme of the novel Lord of the Rings. It is Lord of the Flies, pardon me. However, and we some sort of worked out some structures, key elements of behavior, and so on and so on. Now we will today continue with a little bit of ethics or morality, the difference between ethics and morality. I will probably refer to it later on somewhere. However, this should not bother us. For now, I will some sort of use moral and ethics indiscriminately, and later on I will beg to differ. However, what we want to ask ourselves, especially with utilitarianism, I mean, if you are or if you some sort of learn of rationality in the university or wherever you are, then you always some sort of have an alignment between rationality and utilitarianism, and we will talk about utilitarianism in specific. There are two forms of, if you want, ethics. The first form is utilitarianism, and the second form is deontological ethics. Utilitarianism was made famous by Bentham as well as by John Stuart Mill, and deontological ethics, well, it started earlier, but has had its peak with Immanuel Kant, a German philosopher. So we will mainly talk about utilitarianism here. Please note that utilitarianism is one of those approaches to ethics which is pretty much criticized very often. So if you study philosophy, you most certainly will have heard about utilitarianism, but as well as heard a lot of critics about utilitarianism and so on and so forth. So and the key problems with utilitarianism, we will some sort of talk about them as well, especially explaining them through our examples, which are very vital and important. So those island examples as well as those prison dilemma examples, so to some sort of answer one question. So does rationality always follow ethical behavior, or do we act morally or ethically right when we act rationally? This is, I think, the main key, and as well as does rationality and utilitarianism align. Of course, this is not always easy, and I know that, and I will some sort of show the problems of it, and we will talk a little bit about the issues. But however, I mean, this is a very broad topic. I mean, utilitarianism, there has been written a lot of stuff about utilitarianism. Well, stuff I have not read. I don't know about this. Should not concern us. We will rather talk about the key issues which concerns us. This is about rationality, as well as it will some sort of only remain with rationality. There is a lot of further readings about utilitarianism. So everyone who is interested in it should read about it. Ethics, morale is indeed very important in our days, especially now with this big issue about vaccination and so on. So is the state allowed to be vaccinated, force everyone to be vaccinated, or a big issue as well as freedom, is the freedom of one individual more important than the freedom of the entire society, and so on and so forth. These are all big issues. and we will not be able to talk about them in all depth. Neither we will try to, but however, we will some sort of start with utilitarianism. I have written down some key concept of utilitarianism, which you can find everywhere in an encyclopedia on Google. Google is a smart thing, as long as they do not spy on you or use your data for other purposes. However, I have written some key elements which I think I will some sort of just mention here, so that we are in a way at the same page, so that those who might not know what utilitarianism is, or the exact concept of utilitarianism, I will some sort of ensure that we are on the same page. So the key concept of utilitarianism is the purpose of morality, and the key aim of utilitarianism is to make life better and increase the amount of good things, especially about the increased pleasure and happiness, and in the same time to decrease pain and unhappiness. So this is some sort of a positive contribution to humanity. It is always the key concept is the greatest amount of happiness for the greatest amount of people. Happiness or utility in that sense. And it is important that the action which you do, or which you evaluate, or the outcome, and the result of an action determines whether an action is good or wrong. If you know anything about deontological ethics, then you think beforehand. Deontological ethics have some sort of a belief of right and wrong. This is something you don't have in utilitarianism. Utilitarianism, in that sense, is pretty much unbiased. It does work without the notion of good, and this is indeed something why so many people criticized utilitarianism, because it some sort of does away with good, with bad. It is just solely about the utility of an action. So it is an ethic, if you want, which pretty much does away with religion as well. So religious bearings do not have any place in this ethic. And in utilitarianism, we choose the actions with the best result. It is true that you do not have full insight in all possible outcomes. There, utilitarists have some sort of understood the key concept that you do not have anything, or that you do not have every insight in any possible outcome. This is what we saw in Lord of the Flies as well. You hope that the boys hoped that they would be saved, and this hope structured their behavior, but in the end they did not know. And it is as well, the aim is to maximize happiness. But utilitarianism, this is again some critic as well, see the world. Utilitarists see the world how it should be. So you act in a way in an ideal world, or you act in an ideal assumption of the world, and you act according to that. This is means so they some sort of deduct from an ideal perspective how the world should be, deduct already their behavior, and so on and so forth. So we will talk about this as well a little bit. And what is right or wrong is not foreseeable, but only known by the person at the time and space of the action. So this is some sort of their unbiased. And And again, some sort of the key aspect which I already talked about is this, that utilitarists claim that the action with the highest expected utility is both the best to do based on a current evidence and the right action. So this is where you have it right or wrong. So you have it clear. I wrote this down from an encyclopedia on the internet, so you know a little bit about utilitarianism. There is a lot of stuff about utilitarianism. Definitely check it out. So it is not bad to know things about utilitarianism. You can have a lot of stuff about it on the internet. It is quite interesting, especially in our time. You should talk about it. However, we will some sort of build on this. We will build up upon this assumption of utilitarianism. We talked about in our analysis of Lord of the Fly about Adam Smith, and Adam Smith was again some sort of an advocate of utilitarianism, or he did not say it explicitly, but in his sense, if everyone some sort of acts in an egoistic way, this is very important, acts in an egoistic way, this some sort of helps the overall society. This is the highest utility for the society, the environment, and so on. So we talked the last time about why if a working procedure is broken down into many small pieces, you cannot do anything but to act rationally because you're forced to do that way. However, but one thing is some sort of clear. Utilitarianism has a goal, has an aim. This is what we find in rationalist behavior as well. So you aim towards a higher good. Whereas if you have a deontological ethics, there is rather your state. Well, let's be careful here. Do not mix too many words, but in deontological ethics, this is you some sort of decide before an action what is good or wrong. So in deontological ethics, it is not the result or the outcome of an action, but rather how your mental state or how you approach an action and so on. So your moral acting is actually more important than the result of an action. This is the ontological action according to Kant. So he is very made this approach very famous and so on and so forth. So we have seen this in Adam Smith and so on. And we will then try to apply these utilitarist concepts on our example, which we thought through. This is firstly we thought about the islands. If about an island, this is pretty much the same as happened to Lord of the Flies. If you remember, in our first scenario, we were all alone, so we survived the crash or whatever it was, and we swam on shore, and we are all alone on the island. There you could say it is we came to the conclusion that it is rational, that you have to some sort of survive. This is your need, this is your instincts which work in you, where you have some sort of aligned your biological rationalism with your individual rationalism. You want to survive, and so on and so forth. This is what you could pretty much say. Yeah, this is you are. Well, you cannot say much about it in that sense because of course you have to survive, and of course it is your moral obligation that you survive. Period. Yeah, it is either way. If you act or if you try to survive, this this will be pretty much better for your psyche if you do it. While you could as well as think about suicide as well. Well, I don't know, in a way to end your suffering. This could be an issue as well. We will talk about this in the next example, especially about life. Is life important or not? So in our first example, we would say, yeah, this aligns with it. You want to survive. You want to see another day. This is ethically and morally from you demanded, and it is rational. Period. The second example, or the second scenario of our example, this was again, if you recall, that you survived this airplane crash, but you are not alone anymore, and with someone else. And this someone else happens to be that you don't know anything about him, and the resources are scarce, and you some sort of assume, again, this is very important, you assume that help is not nigh, and this person or that the scarce resources cannot maintain both of you. So this means one of you has to go, and your companion is not very skilled in survival, so he is not he's of no use for you if you remember a lot of the flies. So he's no hunter, no gatherer, no builder, whatever it is. So he just brings your resources, and then you would some sort of assume, do I have the right to kill this person in order to ensure my survival? Of course, those who think your life is very sacred, life is, we would immediately assume, no, of course you cannot kill this person because the life is sacred, life is important. At least I hope that you think that way. But however it is, if you both die, then nothing comes out of it. So you will go through suffering, you will go through pain, starvation, or being starving, or starve. If you starve, that's not a good thing. This is nasty or very painful. If you starve, if you have no water, especially once your resources is gone, and you do not know when help will arrive. So in that sense, it is most likely if you let your companion live, whom you do not know, and with whom you have no sexual interest, so you cannot produce offspring. Either way, this is your competitor for those scarce resources. So there, it would be actually rational that you kill this person, in order to ensure your survival. And if we consider this from an utilitaristic perspective, where we must not see whether a decision or whether an act is right or wrong, but rather on the result of an action, then we would have to say, yeah, well, this is justified, morally justified in that sense, that because then one of us survives. If those scarce resources, they are not enough for both of us. So if not one of us goes, then we will starve and die all of us, both of us. And so it is rational that at least one of us survives, spares himself pain. This is the greatest utility. One survives, I don't know, this a person who survives may come out as a good person, help a lot of people, who knows what it is. So in that sense, it is morally, or if you would consider this from a deontological perspective, then you would say, no, this is wrong. Killing someone is wrong. However, from an utilitaristic perspective, you would say, in order to ensure my survival, I have to get rid of this person. So this would be very likely we would do, especially if you have no close bond to this person. This is just a random dude who happens to be at the wrong place at the wrong time, and you make an end of it. So it is rational as well as utilitaristic or morally righteous. I know this sounds hideous, but it is true. So we do not look in of bad and good. This is actually one of the things which was always brought against utilitarianism. So it does not look at the action of a thing, or it does not look at the intention of an action, but rather only of at the outcome. So it is in a way morally shallow. This again happens here. However, but if I alone survive on an island with scarce resources, it is never joyous to kill someone. However, but you ensure or that this is the greatest utility for us all. And you have the same example with lifeguards and so on. So if a lifeguard tries to save someone from drowning, this lifeguard always has to ensure that he does not drown with this person as well. So he has to survive either way. So if they drown, or if both of them drown, then nothing comes out of it. Whereas if only one drowns, another sees another day. This is in our example as well. So it is rational and morally, according to utilitarianism, morally justified to get rid of your opponent. And then in the third scenario, we said that you are a heterosexual man, you happened to be single, and right there survives with you a beautiful, attractive woman. She's in a childbearing age. You may not have a connection to her, so we left those emotional connections to those examples in our prison dilemma. So you do not have any emotional connection to her, no emotional investment. She's just good looking, amazing, what have you. She's healthy, young, and which seems that she could bear you children, so that you some sort of have your biological instinct growing while you could father children with her. This is what we said is biologically innate in us. This is what you have, some sort of pass your genes on to the next generation. This urge, this does not mean that we justify any rude or uncanny or even violence against women. Not at all. This does not mean, especially in our time, you have to be crafty or not. You have to be some sort of I would say you have to be some sort of gifted with communication, or communication in our time is key. So you do not force yourself upon a woman. This is not. Some people should not misunderstand that, because there are of course people who are so narrow-minded that they only think of one thing when this comes into one's mind. Not at all. You have some sort of an urge to produce offspring. This is what you have. This is what you want. This is something innate in us, no matter whether you're a man or woman. This is every biologist will verify that, or human biologist. However, in this example, we said that you do not kill this woman for whom you have some sort of urges, or whom you desire, despite the fact that it is stupid, because again there are scarce resources. Again, you do not know when help will arrive, and again it would be stupid. So it would be stupid to let someone live, or even worse, to even father children, because this is those who may know the Blue Lagoon with Brooke Shields. They have fathered children there however, I mean, they had food, how so on and so forth. However, in scarce resources, you would assume that you get rid of your opponent, which you do not do in this example, which is very likely. And we have, again, this is not my assumption. There are a lot of researches starting from or there are a lot of researches which proves that men and women act differently when they are around each other, despite the fact they do not know each other, and so on. So this is why I actually, or this is why I have to emphasize on this fact that that biological rationalism is something we have to separate in that sense, because there is enough research made on this topic. For example, when men are in a fitness studio, or if man is some sort of workout, are working out, and if they see an attractive woman to whom they do not have any connections whatsoever, then you see that their blood pressure rises, and so on and so forth. And the same is vice versa. Whereas the attractive man, some sort of have an appeal to women, despite the fact they do not have any emotional connection and investment. For example, there are a lot of women or girls who scream when they see Justin Bieber, or back in the days it was, I don't know, Leonardo DiCaprio, or this band Backstreet Boys, One Direction, or what have you. So you would, or the key is that there is no emotional connection, yet we still feel attracted to this woman. I mean, the entire ad industry is built on that. So especially with half-naked women who are presented on ads, and they sort of try to garner attention among men. However, this is the justification why we will have to separate between them. And again, this action would be rational on this island. It would be rational in that sense that you do not kill this woman. Some of us would say, yeah, this is morally true, the right thing to do. Well, you should not kill someone. However, in an utilitaristic sense, this would be wrong, or this would be stupid. Stupid in that sense, like we said before, because now it is most likely that you both will starve, or even worse, when you father a children and you some sort of can make it through the first 9 months. The worst thing that could happen is that this child, as well as has to grow up in poverty, has to grow up with scarce resources, and so on and so forth. So this will increase pain. This is not smart in that sense, because then you put both of your lives at stake, and it is of no use, or it is of no use or overall use. It has not the highest utility, because now you both die, or whatever. Or if you want to have this issue with the lifeguard, you both drown, period. This is not smart. In that sense, it is, in that sense, rationality some sort of diverts from utilitarianism, and you could as well as put there your best friend, and so on. And we talked about other examples. For example, where people engaged in cannibalism, this famous trial about those sailors who ate this young lad in order to ensure that their survival. There are many examples examples where people were forced to engage in cannibalism or just did it as free choice. However it is, and there you have as well as or there you have the question as well as should we sacrifice the life of one person in order to ensure the life of the group. This would be murder, plain and simply. You could then, in an utilitaristic worldview, this would be right. For example, this would be if you are on an island with a lot of people. Let's say you are on an island with 10 people, and if among those 10 people, 9 come together and decide that we have to kill one of us, or we have to kill the 10th guy in order to ensure survival, either because of scarce resources or that we want to eat him, then this would be in an utilitaristic term the right thing to do. This is the highest utility. Yeah, you can ensure the survival of nine people if you feast on one. I know this all sounds hideous and so on, and out of a horror movie, but I say this because these things actually happen. So if this airplane crash in the end, these in South America, so there are a lot of things happen there, and these are indeed question where you think about is this morally right or wrong. And in utilitarianism again, you see at the results of an action. So it is in that sense shallow, or if you want to use neutral terms, it is in that sense unbiased. It is just core or solely the result of an action which determines whether an action is good or bad, and the result is the survival or the greatest utility. Happiness, well, I don't know. I don't assume that you will feel happy if you feast on your comrades. However, but it is about survival and about the highest utility. Then now we will come to the prison dilemma, and they are pretty much tricky in that sense, because now we have to, in the prison dilemma, we have to think about another angle. This is, or let's put it that we're in a prison dilemma. You mostly see things from a perspective of the criminals, or you see only through the narrow mind of the criminals, and you do not per se see the overall utility, and the overall utility would be the society, because we would all agree that society is better off when there are less criminals, or when criminals are in a way repentant and stop being or stop pressing crime. Well, who knows how this is possible? Some say you can some sort of change people. Well, I don't know. I have not seen that. However, or whatever it is. However, this is what we have to consider in our prison dilemma, and we will always ask if it is possible and try to answer this question: what is the overall benefit for the society? This would be then the greatest utility. So what is good for society? And of course we would agree on that there are less crime on the streets, that the streets are not crime ridden, that our families and loved ones and our children are safe, that criminals do not roam the streets. I know this is this is a big issue in continental Europe, in Austria, in my home town, or in Vienna, where you were some very notorious criminals are even allowed to walk home or walk jail free on weekends and commit further crime. However, but in our first prison dilemma example, where we some sort of followed the very common theme, which is as well as taught in many philosophical classes, there we had two criminals, two bank robbers who agreed on robbing a bank, but yet they did not know each other. They were not very close, so and they get some sort of not caught, but the police does not have anything against them. They suspect something, and during a cunning interrogation, the detective tries to make them confess. We said, and this is in accordance what we learn in philosophic classes, especially with game theory and so on. So we said that they some sort of snitch on each other. It is not only snitch, you can as well as incriminate someone else. For example, if you are a criminal and you want to reduce your sentence, you can as well as snitch or incriminate someone else if you know that this person cannot defend himself. This is actually pretty much common as well. However, we will stay with this topic, and we said that you then snitch on your comrade, that you incriminate him, it was all him and you are innocent, and so on and so forth, and he will do the same, and the outcome is that you both do time, or that you both some sort of get a reduced sentence. How this works out in reality, well, it is questionable. However, it is that one key element of your action is fear. You fear that the other one is not trustworthy, that the other one could snitch on you, and in order to reduce your loss, because this is what you have to say, it is in order to you could actually do more time if you some sort of being considered as the main suspect, as the one who did it all. So in order to prevent that to be solely held responsible, you would then decide to snitch on this other man, on your accomplice, and he does it vice versa. So you get better off. This is some sort of rational behavior which you assume, or which you assume people do in reality. This is happening indeed. And here it is some sort of, in an utilitaristic sense, it is good, because you could have been doing more time, despite the fact that if you two would have kept your mouth shut, you two would have walked free. However, this did not happen. So you some sort of could reduce pain, and the utility is in a way that, or the utility or the highest utility for society is that, firstly, criminals go into jail, so the streets are not crime-ridden anymore. And the second thing is, this is some sort of in the background, and this means that criminals some sort of distrust each other, and they do not create crime syndicates. This is as well as this prison dilemma then continues mostly with states, why states do not cooperate with each other. Well, in reality, they do. There is a European Union. There is a OCDE. There is the G20, G9, and so on and so forth. So in reality, people and businesses, some sort of cooperate. There are very strong cooperation or very mighty corporations in the world. However, but in this example, or in our first example, in our prism dilemma, some sort of everyone is better off, and so on and so forth. So it is where rationality aligns itself with utilitarianism, we would assume. However, in our second example, there we had that you some sort of rob a bank with someone whom you know. This could be like Bonnie and Clyde, your spouse, or this could be your best friend, your brother. Whoever it is, you have an emotional investment. You have an emotional connection to this person, and your goal, this is very important. In our first example, our objective, our goal was to get a reduced sentence. We were led by fear. And in our second example, well, your goal is rather that you some sort of meet again with your spouse. This is at least what we assumed. So you don't want your friend, your best friend, or your brother or your sister or the woman you love be harmed. Your main objective is that you to get out of this, and you assume that if you are Clyde, you assume that Bonnie loves you as well, and that she will do everything to meet with you again. This is what you assume. Love is indeed a very strong emotion. No matter what you think that criminals would be all wicked and not able to feel love. Well, I don't know. However, it is so we assume that the main objective there is that you have this emotional connection and that you some sort of want to meet with them again, and that fear, in that sense, you would say is fear that you would not meet up again. So in that sense, you would not snitch on each other, you would not incriminate each other, but rather walk free, jail free, because you have realized that the police has nothing against you, and they are just only using cunning interrogation methods and so on and so forth. So, and this would be, in a sense, rational. In a social sense, it would be rational, as well as in a biological sense. Biological sense there, it would be a very broad term, however, but in an utilitaristic sense, this would be wrong. Utilitaristic sense in that perspective, that criminals walk free, criminals align each other, criminals some sort of can circumvent law, so and so on and so forth. So it is utilitaristically wrong, or morally, even according to utilitarianism, it is wrong. It is wrong because it only serves your own egoism, only serves your son. So only perspective and